A group of women worked with Reverend Patty, Reverend Karen, and I, creating themes for 2013, creating titles for 2013. Some of those people are in this room. Would you please stand so I can acknowledge you? Come on, stand up, stand up. Thank you. So I chose a group of women that I thought we could certainly use more of their kind of people here. And so we talked about things that they were interested in, themes that they were interested in. And so hang on, if you don't happen to look like one of those people, I know that these themes are universal. So the first thing we thought was when we are looking for a spiritual home, we're actually, when we find it, we feel at home. We feel at home. So the overall theme for the whole year is welcome home. And it isn't about welcome home to the home of your past, although that might have been wonderful. It's welcome home to the home of your heart, to that place that is absolutely filled with wisdom, filled with love, filled with truth. The home of your heart has always been there for you as that wisdom, as that knowingness that is your conscience and is your courage and is your boldness when you need to be bold and your tenderness when you're called to be tender. So welcome home, not just to our new home here, but welcome home to yourself, to the home of your heart, to your true self. And that's our whole journey, the whole year. I'll talk about it more, and you'll see the thread. So the first thing we looked at was the real call for us as spiritual seekers to be authentic, to listen to that voice of authenticity within us, and to be willing to speak it out, to be willing to tell the truth. And what we discover is most of us are not willing. We have understanding within us, and we keep it to ourselves. We have blessings to give others, and instead of giving them out loud, blessing them, we hold back. We're a little bit shy. And we think we're the only ones that think the way we do. And we're wrong. There are so many others that think the way we do. I'll give you two examples. One, of course, you know that one of my holy places, my holy shrine every Sunday morning is Starbucks. And I always get something. Usually it's a server that blesses me, but this time it was a woman who was also waiting for her drink. And she came over to me and she said, "Pardon me," and she picked long blonde hair, mine, off my coat. She said, "I hope you don't mind." Most people wouldn't do that. And she's quite right. She said, "I'm not being fresh or familiar. I just noticed, I have a black coat, and so it was showing up on the front of my jacket." And she said, I make it my practice to do something kind for another person every day. She said, "I think I'll live longer because of it." Now, honestly, that's my guru. My theme today is mindfulness. It's you are what you tweet. Mindfulness in 140 words or less, and I'll get into that in a minute, what that means. But there was this woman, this Starbucks, just ordinary person in Starbucks, happened to talk to me, happened to feed me spiritual truth, and I was listening. So thank you for your wonderful song. There are so many things that the wise ones say, the gurus say, all religions say, the universe is shouting from every angle to us all the time. To us personally, if we just listen, we'll hear exactly what we need to hear for our highest good, for the greatest expression of good within us, for us. So there was one. Another one, I was where I was for the last million years or 20 days. I was in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. And I got there Christmas night. I was going to spend a wonderful Christmas with my family, my mom, my one sister, my brother, and all of her children and their children. And we did that on what we call Boxing Day in Canada, the day after Christmas. We had all the fixins and all of the celebration. I got there to Saskatoon, and before we deplaned, the pilot said, "Welcome to Saskatoon. The temperature is minus 31. And for those of you who still think in Fahrenheit, that's about minus 28 Fahrenheit. So it's about the same thing. It's very cold." Now, before I went, many of you heard me say this. I promised myself I was not going to complain about the weather once, no matter what. And I kept my promise. But here's the thing. Everybody in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan complains about the weather. So it was like, it's cold, isn't it? Yes, it is. But look at how beautiful it was. And it was beautiful. When I got there Christmas night, for those of you who can imagine this or have experienced this, there had been new fallen snow that day. And it was so cold and it had been damp. There was hoarfrost in all of the trees. So everything was covered in white. It was like painted white. It was exquisitely beautiful. And so I could legitimately say, but it's so beautiful. I'm enjoying the beauty of it. And I didn't have to say anything about the cold. I did not have to say anything about the cold. And then it warmed up. And then it got cold. And then I made a mistake and said, I've experienced everything but a blizzard. And it started to blow. And it started to blow. And I said, okay, thank you, God. Enough. Thank you, Andy. It was kind of like that. Only the trees were even prettier than that. It was just exquisite. So at the hospital, after 4 or 5 days of paying $15 for the parking every day, and it looked like my mom was going to be in for quite a while longer. She was actually in hospital for 13 days, and she was very, very sick. She has COPD, and thank you for your prayers. So many of you were praying, and I know you were. I know our practitioners were praying, but there was more than that, praying for my mom's well-being and her health. And she improved every day. And so we brought her home to her apartment, and we got almost 24-hour care for her because we felt that she would get better faster in the place she loves than in a new place. So we're just knowing that that's working. But I want to tell you about the day before yesterday. Those of you who have watched that kind of weather will know that part of Saskatchewan had a big dump of snow on Friday, big blizzard. They had 30 centimeters, which is, I think, about 1.5 feet of snow. Blowing snow, the highways were closed, etc. That was 90 miles south of where we were. I'd prayed that day about how do we take a 93-year-old woman who can barely walk with her walker to the bathroom, out to a car, even if the car's been warmed. How do we get her into the car? You know, it's the logistics of being in a cold country are more complicated than they are here. And so once more, I'm so very grateful for living where I live. And I invite you to join me in just being so grateful for even when it's as cold as it is today, it doesn't require us to bundle up, get wheelchairs, get 3 people to help, get an oxygen tank, it was complex. And it was calm. And there was no snow in Saskatoon. 90 miles south, there was one of the biggest blizzards of the winter. It missed us completely. We never did get it there. But I had prayed that it would be easy for us to transport my mom and that we would be able to do this, get her into her own bed, her own home with grace. And God's grace was there with her. So she's improving. Your continued prayers, I'm accepting. So mindfulness in 140 words or less. Well, so first of all, how many of you have a Twitter account? Hands up. Okay, look around. Look around. Okay, so not a whole lot of us. How many of you use your Twitter account quite often? Now you see my hand didn't go up, but you saw some hands that did go up. So here's the thing. You know how in some churches, the first thing you'll see is, please turn your cell phones off? Not here, because some of these people are working for us every Sunday by tweeting, which is what you do on a Twitter account. You send a tweet. You don't whistle or sing, although I suppose you could send a whistle or a song, but you send some tidbit of information. It has to be 140 characters or less, or it won't send, which I found out when I tried to send one of my first tweets. It's like, why won't it go? Well, I'd written more than 140, and so it wouldn't send. So anyway, what they do, and you'll see right in the middle of my talk, they're on their cell phones. Good! That's really good, because I think Darren's followers are about 16,000. So when he tweets something, 16,000 other people are joining us for that idea. Isn't that great? That's the greatest thing ever. So anyone else who would like to tweet during the service anything at all, even if it's negative, it's publicity. And I envision this sanctuary full of people who are also like-minded, who also think they're all alone and no one else thinks like they do, who knows that there's no one way to nirvana or heaven. There's no one religion that can claim that they have it all, but there are many paths up that mountain. They know that they're connected because they feel the presence of God when they're still. And they know that there are other people probably somewhere who think the same as they do. Welcome home. Welcome home. So, for this inward journey of authenticity, what we are looking at is, how do we learn to tell the truth about ourselves? So for me, my first test was, because I love to agree with people, that's always such a great point of connection when I can agree. And so they're complaining about the weather and I can't do it because I promised myself. I can talk about the beauty. I can connect in some other way. So it forced me to look outside the box. Being mindful doesn't take a lot of words. Then I want to tell you so back to the $15 a day for the parking. So finally my sister said, why don't I get a week pass? Because looks like she's going to be here another 7 days at least. Sure, let's do that. $50 rather than $15 a day. So weeks pass. Well, one of the days we did a couple of days, we were looking at homes for my mom that might be personal care home. And so we would go to the hospital, help with lunch, get mom settled for a nap, and then off we'd go. And so the ticket would go into the machine. Well, this time there was a man taking the tickets, and he waved us by, saw that it was a pass. When we got in, when we came back, the machine wouldn't take the ticket. It said, and my sister tried it. It was like, stupid machine. Try. Well, obviously there's operator error somewhere. And what it was saying was, already present. I thought, I've got to remember that. I've got to remember that. That's the best metaphysical advice there is. Already present. That's a great tweet. Way less than 140 characters. Already present. There's nowhere to go. You're there already. You're already home, wherever you are. Already present. I just love that. What a great message to remind us there's nowhere to go. So I ask you, and I ask myself, maybe we all don't have Twitter accounts, but we're all saying something. We're either thinking it, we're speaking it, we're writing it, might be singing it, we're communicating it in some way. There's something on our minds and hearts, and we're sharing it. Is it something that's in alignment with the truth of your heart? Is it something that you'd be proud of seeing in a banner above your car, your head, your whatever? If it isn't, today's the day to decide. You're the thinker of your thoughts. I'm the thinker of my thoughts. What if today you made a decision, like I did about not complaining about the weather? How about not complaining about anything? Finding some God in everything that's going on. Because you know, God is synonymous with good. God equals good. So find something good, something godlike in absolutely everything. We don't have to have a Twitter account to remind ourselves of this. We just need to remind ourselves. When I was flying back, I was watching a movie, and I'm so sorry I can't even remember the name of it, but it was a movie about one teacher and one parent in a school. And the school was called John Adams School. Maybe someone knows the name of this movie. It's pretty recent, but probably wasn't a 5-star, but it was a pretty good movie. And what they were doing is they decided it was time that teachers were allowed to be teachers and not just follow rules, to be able to stay with children if the children needed help after school, and to make sure the children learned something. And one of the lines in this school came, it's a famous speech or piece of writing by John Adams. And it is about because we can think, speak, because we can write, we will do so with wisdom. I thought, well, that's exactly what I'm going to say tomorrow. Because we can think. Because our words are our greatest protection. Our greatest protection, our greatest friends. So right now, are you mindful of the good that is? For the meditation, though any of you that were here for the meditation, the image we chose was a roaring fire. Because it's cold for us. It's been so cold these few days. Well, that's what's so, but so what? Can you keep yourself warm? Can you use it for an excuse to maybe cuddle up with your loved one just a little closer? Can you make some good of what is? Truly, I believe that's mindfulness. Taking what is and saying, right here, God is. I only had a couple of times with my mom, just silent, she and I, and my sister doesn't. My sister says, I don't believe like you do. I took a cab home one night, and the cab driver was, I don't know. I really still don't know what his intention was, but when I got in the cab, he said, life is short. maybe for some, life is short, he said. And it can be over immediately. I mean, it was almost like a threat. And it could be over at any time. God decides when life is going to be over. And I looked at him. I was tired. It was 10 o'clock at night. I hadn't had lunch or dinner. I've been looking after my mom. And I just said, well, I believe God is right here in this van with both of us. With you, God is in you as you, and God is in me as me, and all is well in my world. And he didn't say anything else. He just stopped. So then, anyway, then I thought, well, that's even stranger that there's no communication. I told my sister later, and she said, well, don't you realize that that's a very strange thing to believe? I don't think so. I think it's a very normal thing to believe. It's what I tell you every Sunday. So anyway, my sister doesn't have the same beliefs as I do. That's she has her own, and they're good. And she's a good woman. But that meant that Mom and I didn't pray a lot when Kathy was around. So we took a couple of times to pray, and they were beautiful times. And I taught her the other Melissa Felipe chant. As you can hear, I'm a little needing to nurture myself. Thank you, Kimberly, for reminding what this really is. I'm needing to nurture myself a little bit more. And so I'm not going to sing it to you, but it is this. And it's true. There is only one of us. In your eyes, it's me I see. There is only one of us. You are my reflection. There is only one. Mindfulness in 140 or less. Namaste. Thank you. Thank you.